Hello, everybody. This is Randy the Goblin, and welcome to another exciting episode of Get Your Brush On. This time, the boss is painting for you something very special. What's that sound? It sounds like it's getting closer. Ah! Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to paint for you a Blood Knight from the Vampire Count's army. And what we're going to start with is the horse that he's riding on. And the first color we're going to use is going to be Skavenblight Dinge. Now, because this is just a layer paint, we're going to be utilizing the black primer as the base color. So it doesn't have to be super duper coated, because we want the horses to be kind of almost black. So as you can see, it is kind of like a light coat. I'm going over everything. Well, I'm going over all the skin with it. I'm leaving the hair and the hooves the exact same, just the black. I'm not touching them with the Skavenblight. Alright, so now that the Skavenblight is dried, I know it's a little difficult to see where the Skavenblight is because it looks so close to the black that's on everything else. But trust me, it's there. The next color that we're going to use is Stormvermin Fur. And what we're going to do with that is what I'm going to start calling a detail layer. And all that is kind of going over some of the musculature, but we're going to leave some of the Stormvermin visible. And it's kind of its darker color. And we're just going to kind of pull out each one of these little muscle groups. Just like that. Alright, so now that the Stormvermin has been applied, as you can see, all I've done is highlight the muscle groups with it. There's still some of the original gray right there that you can see. See, it's not a complete layer, it's what I like to call, like I said, a detail layer. Where we just go through and make each of the little details kind of pop with it. Now we're going to pull out some Ulthuan gray. And this is going to be a pinpoint highlight on the horse as well. All I'm going to do just kind of pull out places on the horse that would catch the light more. Just kind of help out my detail highlight, my detail layer. kind of line it. And I'm not going to do too much of this on the skin because it's also going to be a dry brush, well, a kind of dry brush on the mane and the fur here. But I'm going to finish the detail on the skin, show you, and then we're going to do the hair. Alright, so now that we got our pinpoint highlighting done on this, now with the pinpoint highlighting you want it to, the lines to be thin. You don't want a whole bunch of big fat highlights on here because this is a very bright color in contrast to what's on here now. So if you get them too thick, just go back with the Stormvermin and make them a little thinner. Like I did like right there. See now, and it's just a few of them, just enough to kind of accent what you're doing. Now, we're going to take the same Ulthuan gray and a bigger brush. There we go. I'm going to kind of just dry brush on the tail with the Ulthuan. See? Because we want the tail to mostly be black. And the same goes for the furry hooves right here. We want them to be black, but we just want a little bit of a highlight on there so that when we wash this whole thing, the whole horse with Nuln oil, this will stay popped out, and we can see all that lovely detail that the sculptor put into the mane on this horse. And just like that. That's all you do. Alright, so the next step that we're going to do, because, you know, since I'm going to be washing the whole horse anyway, I might as well pull out all the metal bits next that I'm going to wash with the Nuln oil too. So, the only metal bits that we're going to be washing are going to be the ones that we're going to do in the Leadbelcher. So I get a little bit of this on my brush here. Kind of wipe that off. And just gonna hit the chainmail barding down here, and the chainmail barding comes up the horse's side right there, and there's a ring piercing the horse's skin to keep the chainmail up. Poor horse. Alright? Alright. And we got some barding on this side as well that we're going to hit. Now, I'm not hitting any of the armor. I'm not hitting the rest of the plate barding or like the shins or anything like here with this. I'm just hitting we got some hidden chainmail like down in there. Just hitting the chainmail. And then I'm going to go up here to the top and just do this whole blade part up here. Because we might as well, because we got to get it non-oiled anyway. Try to get the ornament part like right there. Just get the blade. Because the little ornamentation part we're going to do a different color. So there. So now we got our chainmail. And our spearhead, lance head. We're going to go ahead and move on to the Nuln oil as soon as this dries. Alright, so while we're waiting for all of our Leadbelcher to dry, I figure we can go ahead and do the hooves. And to do that, we're going to pull out some Rhinox hide. And we're just going to apply it to our hooves. Trying to be very careful not to cover up any of that very nice Ulthuan gray fur that's over the hooves. And we're just going to cover the hooves completely with the Rhinox. Alright, so now the hooves are Rhinox hide. The next step is to kind of highlight them a little bit. And to do that, we're going to take out Steel Wych and Drab. Now I realize that this too is a base color, but we're going to kind of be pinpoint highlighting with it. So it's alright. You'll just give it a... make sure that it's really there. And all I'm going to do is these hooves are like weirdly kind of pitted. And whoop, just like that on the popped out edge. Just like that. And I'm going to do that to all of the hooves. And it's okay if these kind of turn out a little bit big, because we're going to do one more highlight on top of that. So, okay, so now we've got that Steel Legion Drab on the hooves here. The last little highlight that we're going to do on the hooves is going to be with Baneblade Brown. And unlike the Steel Legion, we want these to be kind of thin, and we're just going to kind of go over the Steel Legion just a little bit. See, you can kind of see that there's some Steel Legion there, and there's just a little bit of Baneblade on the very edge of the hoof. So we've got some nice stair stepping going here. We're going to want to do that on all of the the Steel Legion Drab that we've got on our hooves. Just tiny little extra highlight right there. Okay, so we've got the Baneblade on all the hooves, so they look all nice. Now I forgot to mention something. When you had the Rhinox hide out, go ahead and hit your saddle. I hit the saddle and then I completely forgot to tell you. I'm sorry. But so that's got Rhinox hide on it, and now we're going to take some Skrag brown. And just kind of do a little bit of a dry brush. With the Skrag brown. See, it's not a whole lot, just, you know, enough to make it look dirty and kind of whatever. And the reason why I'm going ahead and doing this now is because we're going to be doing so much red next. It's easier just to go ahead and have this part done so you don't have to redo all the red. Because if you're careful enough with the red around the saddle area, you just won't have to deal with it again. And I'm sure all you at home are going, but what about all the washes, all the washes that we're going to do on the red? Won't it all seep down into the saddle? That's exactly what we wanted to do. It's going to be kind of a red tinged brownish saddle, so it's going to be all good. But that's also the reason why I'm not dealing with the lance at all right now, because I want to get all the red out of the way before I deal with this. Alright, so now that we've done the Skrag brown on the saddle, it's time to pick up our wash. So the first wash that we're going to do is not Nuln oil. Haha, I faked you out. The first wash I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pick up some Agrax, and this is for the hooves. And we're just going to get it on all the browny parts of the hooves. So that way when the non-oil starts kind of seeping down, we've already got a nice Agrax Earthshade going down here for the hooves. Alright, so now that we got all that beautiful Agrax Earthshade on the hooves, now it's time for non-oil. And what we're going to apply the non-oil to is basically all of the exposed bits of the horse. Yep, all the horsey nudie parts are going to get some non-oil. That includes the mane and all the fur on the legs here. We're also going to get the chainmail, so that way, you know, it's got that those nice dark spots, so you can tell it's chainmail. If you get it too, you know, too thick with the paint, it'll kind of help you make up for your boo-boos on that. And we're also going to hit the top of the lance here, just like that. Just make sure you work it in there, just like so. And then it's going to take a while for it to dry, so just kind of leave the project, let it dry, because after this it's going to be so much red. It's going to be the shining all up in here. Alright, so now that the non-oil has dried on our beautiful, beautiful horse, now it's time to start on the arduous task of applying red to the armor on the horse and the armor on the knight. Plus, you know, all the little cloth bits. So to make this easy, we're going to pull out Mephiston red, and we're just going to coat all of this right here in the Mephiston. Just make sure it all gets a nice, good, even coat. Honestly, because of this, if you wanted to spray primer the thing red, I would completely understand. Because this is going to take a while to do. So I'm definitely going to cut the feed right now, because this is probably going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of the night, is just put red on here. Alright, so now that we've gotten the Mephiston red on all of the armor and fabric pieces on the model, the next step we're going to do is to differentiate the armor from the fabric. And I know this is going to sound like it's a weird concept because we just based it all the same color. But what we're going to take is the Wazdakka red, and we are going to do a detail layer on all of the armor. And it's going to seem a little weird, but instead of going straight for these high ridges here, I'm actually going right down the middle. Because at the end, all these high poked out ridges on the armor are going to be metal color, actually. Because you know, with lacquered armors and such, what overuse, wear and tear, whatever you want to call it, the lacquer will chip off. And you will be left with your original metal coat. So I'm actually kind of doing a reverse highlight. I'm leaving the areas directly around the ridges, the Mephiston, and I'm going for the low-lying areas with the Wazdakka. And I'm going to kind of continue this around the entirety of the model. Except for like right here. Right here, it's going to be like the jutted out edges that are going to end up being that metallic color. But I'm going to leave the Mephiston showing more towards this, towards the back end, because that's where the shadow is going to be. Okay. Now it's kind of hard to tell what to do on some of these other ones in here. Like the test piece, you don't really have a pulled out metal edge, really. So those, I tend to try and do the more normal route of highlighting, where you go for the popped out areas. So on these, it's just going to be like the very edges of the pauldrons here, and like this popped out edge like right there, that are going to catch the metal coat. I know it's kind of a weird thing to do the reverse, like in here. These weird little kneecap things. I know it seems like I know the parts of most of the armor pieces, but I don't know these. I don't know what this is. If you know what this is, you go ahead and leave a comment, tell me what it is. I don't know what it is. But like right here, I'm going to do the reverse thing again. And highlight on the inside, because the popped out ridges, like I said, are going to get the metal coat. Doing it right here too. And just like the top edge of this there. So you kind of get the idea of what I'm doing. Alright, so now that we've got the Wazdakka applied as a nice detail layer on all of the armor, not the fabric, we're going to do a pinpoint highlight next on the armor. And for that, we're going to use the Evil Sunz Scarlet. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know a pinpoint highlight is just a little added bump, kind of tracing the highlights again. But not enough to cover all of what we've done. Now we don't want to use too much of the Evil Sunz on the armor, because we're going to be using it again very soon on the fabric layer as well. See? Not a whole lot. Just enough. See? Alright, so hopefully you get the idea. Okay, so now that we've got the last of the pinpoint highlighting done on the armor, we're going to go ahead and use some paint on the fabric. Because if we're going to be washing all the armor, might as well wash the fabric while we're at it. So, you can go ahead and keep out your Evil Sunz Scarlet. And this time we're going to do the detailed highlight, well, the detail layer with it on the fabric, because we want the fabric to be brighter than the armor itself. The armor is going to be a much darker, deeper red than the fabric, and that's how we're going to be able to tell it apart. Now, unlike with the armor, we can do the regular detail layer that you would do on everything else, basically leaving the lower areas darker and popping out the higher areas, you know, because we're not going to be putting any metal on this. Alright, so now that we've got the detail layer on the fabric, I know what you're thinking. I don't see the difference in this. Why did we do it? Well, after the washes are applied, believe me, you'll be able to see the difference. But before the washes get applied, we're going to do our pinpoint highlight on the fabric, and that's going to be with the Wild Rider Red. And with all pinpoint highlights, we're just going to pull out, you know, what's on top. Just like that. It's going to be this little lines. There you go. Alright, so now that we've got all of the highlighting done on the fabric as well, before we wash, we're going to do some of the ornamentation on the armor. And to do that, we're going to pull out the Balthasar Gold and use it, because it has a nice kind of bronzy look to it. Now all of these Death Knights, Blood Knights, they have different ornamentation. Usually, though, on the back, the neck guard here, they've got this one little ornament piece here that I like making this Balthasar gold color. And some of them have this kind of face here on the front of the armor too, that we like doing the Balthasar gold. This guy has a nice little ornamentation on the nose guard. I'm going to do that in the Balthasar too. But it's not just the armor that has some of the ornamentation. These few spikes right here, I like doing them the Balthasar gold as well on some of them, because I think it looks kind of nice. And I mean, I'm going to go over that, I'm not going to just leave it. These guys, however, I'm going to do in the metal color, as well as the spikes on the back side too. And the spike right here on the front of the horse. But the other area of Balthasar is going to be the nose guard on the horse as well. And the reason why we're going to go ahead and do the Balthasar gold on these is because while we're washing, we're going to wash it and it's going to add some dimension to the Balthasar gold. It's not going to be so bright, so shiny. It's going to get dulled down too. Because these guys are undead, so they're not supposed to be bright and shiny like Bretonnia. So now that we've applied the Balthasar gold to the ornamentation that we want to apply it to, I also went ahead and did the ornamentation on the lance as well, because you know I got the color out, I might as well go ahead and do it. But like everything else, even metal gets a highlight color. So pull out Runelord brass, and instead of doing like 3 different colors for the metal, I'm just going to do 2. And it's kind of hard to see the difference. Even I have a hard time seeing it, but this is a different enough color that you can kind of tell. And all I do is I just kind of wipe it around the edging. You can kind of see the difference there. Just a little bit on the edging on everything, and that just kind of brightens it up and gives it a little bit of dimension. Just like that. Alright, now that all of the metal bit has been taken care of, let's go ahead and wash it. And we're going to wash all the red, the armor, the fabric, all that good stuff with Carroburg Crimson. And I know what you might be thinking. If I wash all of the red with the Carroburg Crimson, it's going to look exactly the same. It doesn't matter that I used a little bit of different colors. Be patient. I have one more trick to make them look different. So just wash, like I said, all of it, all the red. But you still have to have some control because you don't want to get it on, you know, that nice pretty black horse that we've got going on here. And we don't want to get it on the chainmail either. The saddle, we do want to get it on the saddle, so go ahead and put it on the saddle, have a ball. And go ahead and get it on our bronzy ornamentation as well. Okay. Alright, so now that the Carroburg Crimson wash has dried, we're going to swap gears for just a moment and work on the vampire's face. And to work on that, we're going to do a Rakarth flesh base. If I can get this thing open. And we're just going to be very careful to kind of get in there. And don't forget about the neck, because there's no armor there either. So just kind of be careful, get in there, and get his face. Alright, so as you can see, I got the face all coated in the Rakarth. I did get the teeth. It was kind of unavoidable, but that's okay, because we can go back and pull the teeth out in a different color. But now, because we need a highlight, we're going to do Pallid Witch Flesh. And with small areas, it's a lot more difficult to highlight. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the tip of the chin a little bit, the bottom lip, try and see if I can get the top lip. You know, just kind of pull out what I can. Do a little bit of the side of the neck. And if I can, oops. See, even I do boo-boo sometimes. Yeah, but it's okay because we've only applied the first wash. So when I'm finished with the Pallid Witch, I'm just going to take some Mephiston red and kind of go over that boo-boo real quick before the next wash. But what I was trying to do was just get the area right above the eye. And it's a little hard for me to do and tape at the same time, so. Alright, so now that I've got that applied, and the boo-boo's covered up with the Mephiston again, the reason for me switching gears in the middle was the next wash that we're going to do. And this wash is just going to go on to the armor itself. And this is going to cause the armor and the fabric to be different shades of red, so it's easier to tell them apart. And the wash I'm going to do is Druchii Violet. And I'm actually going to wash the vampire's face in addition to the armor. Because, you know, he's undead, so he's got that kind of purpley hue to his face. At least that's what it looks like in the GW paint scheme. Of course, if you want his face to have a completely different hue, you go right for it. However, if you wanted to have that different hue, I wouldn't do it until after the Druchii Violet wash. Because you don't want to... Because it's kind of hard to not drip down into the face when you're doing this wash. And don't let too much of it sit there, because we want them to kind of be like a lavender color. We don't want them to be all like blacky purple looking. But like I said, just work it into all your armor pieces. Alright, so now that the Druchii Violet has dried, you can see that the armor is a lot darker than the fabric parts that we've got here. The next part we're going to do is going to go ahead and pull out these little spikes here and on the kneecaps of the horse and the prominent spikes on the back here. And that color we're going to use for that is going to be the Leadbelcher. I'm just going to pull out that spike, those spikes there, on the back end, the shin, guards on the horse. Now, on the knights normally, there are these spikes coming off of right here. This guy, however, had his sheared off, so I'm not going to bother touching him. So just go ahead and do those real quick for me. Alright, now that we've got those taken care of, the next thing we're going to do is start pulling out, well, applying some metal coat to this armor. And the way that we're going to do that is going to pull out the Runefang steel. And I'm going to hit all of the little rivets on the armor pieces with that. And I'm also going to do little bits of wear on the popped out pieces, just like that. Just kind of where all of the lacquer has kind of rubbed off on them. As far as the blades on the shoulder, on the pauldrons here, just going to go right down the blade edge, because the rest of it has been lacquered. Just a little bit along each edge of the armor. Alright, so now that we've kind of edged all of our armor in the Runefang steel, I completely forgot to tell you that this is supposed to be in the Leadbelcher right here, the stirrup. But moving on. Now that we've gotten all this nice and edged, as you can see, just all the way around, all the rivets and all the edging, just like that. The next step is we're going to pull out some Necron some Necron compound, and this is like the metallic dry brush that GW puts out. And what we're going to do with it is I'm actually going to wipe most of it off my brush, because even though it's a dry brush, I don't want that much on it when I do this. I'm going to take a nice dry brush and kind of go over the lacquered armor, just so it can get a little bit more of that rub effect on there. Yeah, they're undead. Yeah, they're vampires. They take care of their stuff. But, you know, lacquer only lasts for so long. And I'm just going to go over all the armor, just kind of lightly. Not heavy enough to undo what I've done, but just enough to further be like, look, this is metal. Alright, so as you can see, the armor is now kind of shiny, but it's still got that red tint to it, that red lacquer on it. So it's done. I'm not doing anything else to this armor. This is perfect. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is they have skulls on either side of the horse right next to the foot. So, I'm going to pull out some Zandri dust first. And just give the skull a nice coat of Zandri dust. Alright, so while I'm waiting for the Zandri dust on the skulls to dry, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the lance. And the lance is going to get coated in Steel Legion Drab first. Now, of course, the Steel Legion Drab only goes on this part here, up here, and the lower end here, but not on the grip. The grip is going to be a completely different color. Alright, so now that we've got the Steel Legion Drab on the lance here, gonna let that dry and move back to our skulls. And the next color for the skull is Ushabi bone. And this is going to be a detail layer. So just take a little bit, kind of wrap it around the back, and hit the cheekbone and the jaw there. Eye sockets. Just like that. Alright, so while we're letting the skulls dry before their next coat, we're going to go back to the lance and take out some Baneblade Brown. And one of the things that's kind of popular to do with lances and a lot of wood products is almost striping them. So you just kind of take the Baneblade Brown and kind of go down it. Unfortunately, I'm not that great with this technique, so all you do is you stripe, just paint little stripes up the shaft of the lance. It's kind of a simulated wood grain, is all it is. And these are a little thick, so I'll probably go back with the Steel Legion Drab and thin them out at the end. But you just stripe the top of the lance and the bottom kind of the best you can. Alright, there we go. So we've got this all striped up. I did go back and kind of take some more of the Steel Legion Drab and kind of clean up the striping, but there you go. So the next thing is we're going to do is, because the skulls have dried now, we're going to do their pinpoint layer with Screaming Skull. Though these skulls are not screaming. least they don't look like they're screaming. Their jaws are not open. So all I want you to do is just go over the eyebrow ridge, the front of the skull here, just a tiny bit on the jawline. That's it. Just enough to bring the facial bones out again. Alright, so now that the skulls have had their pinpoint highlight put on, I'm going to take the same screaming skull and go over the vampire's fangs up here. See? And the last thing that we're going to use the screaming skull for is the last little bit of pinstriping on the lance. And what you want to try and do is kind of get it in the center of the Bane Blade brown pinstriping and just make it really kind of thin. Alright, so the lance is done with its pinstriping. So the next little thing is we're going to do the stirrups, the straps on the stirrups, at very least. And because those are leather, we're going to pull out Mournfang brown. And just coat the strap just like that. All it is. And then pull out Skrag brown, which is what we did on the saddle, I believe. And just do a little bit of a highlight. There. And because I'm a little brain dead right now, I forgot that we still haven't done the handle on the lance. So we're going to use the Mournfang brown like we just did with the stirrup strap, and just coat the whole thing with the Mourn. And we're going to take the Skrag brown again and do the highlight with it. Just like that. Alright, and the next color that we're going to do is on top of each of the skulls is a little tiny bit of ornamentation. And because it is nice, pretty ornamentation, right there, we're going to pull out our Balthasar gold again. And just pull it out like that. And there's a little bit of a connector piece on top. Don't forget about that. And that was Balthasar gold, yay! And of course now we gotta let it dry for a little bit before we do the highlight. Alright, so now that the Balthasar gold is dry, I forgot the name of the paint. Pull out your Runelord brass again. And just a quick run around the edges with the Runelord brass. Just like that. That's it. Alright, so I completely forgot to hit record. But here's what I did when I forgot to hit record. I took out some Seraphim Sepia, and all I did was wash the lance here. I did not wash the grip part, because I'm actually going to wash that now with some Agrax Earthshade. I'm also going to take the Agrax and wash over the skulls. That we've been doing. And the strap on the stirrup that we did. Then we have the fun of letting that dry. Alright, so we're almost home free. But let's go ahead and pull out this stone here. All of them have a stone that the horse is kind of standing on. It kind of helps anchor the horse to the base. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Stormvermin fur. And use that as my base coat for it. Alright, now the reason why we went ahead and did the stone is because we're going to hit a lot of stuff with Nuln oil now. Well, not a lot of stuff. But we're going to hit the stirrup. And each of the spikes that we did in the Leadbelcher with the Nuln oil. Okay. Alright, so now we've done that. It's all nice and oldie looking. Gonna switch gears here and we're gonna do the horse's eye. Because it's kind of an undeady kind of horse, we're gonna take out some Evil Sunz Scarlet. And we're gonna use that as our base color because we want the eye to be bright. Nice and bright. Alright, so next part on the eye that we're going to do, pull out the Wild Rider Red. And just do a smaller circle within the eye. Right there. See, it's already looking much brighter. Alright, so the last little bit on the eye that we're going to do is going to take some Scar White. And we're just going to add a little tiny... that's way too much. Let me try that again. Just a dot. Right there. It's shining. Okay, I'm going to go back and fix the other eye. Alright, so the skulls have had a nice long time to dry at this point. And the last thing that we're going to do with the skulls is take some Praxti white, dry paint, and attempt to get some on the brush here. And just dry brush the skull with it to kind of brighten it up. Alright, so after the skulls have been dry brushed, the only other thing to do is the shield. And as you can see, I've already done the shield. And the reason for me doing the shield is because it is exactly the same method that I used for the rest of the armor plating, is all you have to do. And as far as the design goes, that's up to you. If you like this kind of like little snaky design here, it's basically an S with a head and a little swoop over the top. That's all it is. Once you've gotten the design on there, just dry brush your Necron compound over top of it to give it that same shine as the rest of the armor. Then you're good to go. That's all it is. As far as the eyes on the vampire go, see if I can get some light on there. They're undead. So, I mean, just simple black eyes, just jet black is fine, like Abaddon black. There's such a tiny detail I couldn't really show you on camera. Now, if you can see in there, mine, I put just a tiny, tiny, tiny little speck of Scar White in there to kind of give off a shine. Just like I did with the horse eyes. But that's it. That's how you get a Blood Knight. Isn't he pretty? Questions, comments, leave them below. Anything you might want me to paint for you on upcoming episodes, I'll do my best to get a hold of. If you'd like me to commission paint something for you special, the email will be listed below as always. Thank you for watching.